Trucker Dump for June 10th, 2011, episode 69, the CSA, the Crappy Sucky Administration.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com. Resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Howdy folks, Todd McCann here. Well, we all love regulations, right? Right? Hello? Is this thing on? Okay, maybe not. The topic of today's podcast is just the latest in a long line of regulations truckers have to deal with. I introduce you to the CSA, the Crappy Sucky Administration. As if the title didn't tell you all you needed to know, I'm not a big fan of the new CSA rules that the trucking industry is dealing with. In fact, I'd rather jump in the cage with one of those MMA fighters. Being the wuss that I am, it'd be almost as painful as dealing with the CSA, but at least I'd be unconscious in a matter of seconds instead of enduring the never-ending torture that the CSA promises a truck driver. Okay, so what is the CSA really? CSA stands for Comprehensive Safety Analysis. Now that's about as technical as this article is going to get. You see, for a change of pace, I actually went and tried to do a little research into the CSA before I started writing this article. I gotta tell you, if someone told me my job for the rest of my life was going to involve researching subjects that I care nothing about, I might just join a terrorist group and sign up to wear a bomb vest. Only once I got suited up, I'd walk up and give the head terrorist a big hug, step back, grin, and hit the trigger. In a nutshell, here's what the CSA is designed to do. Its goal is to identify unsafe drivers and carriers. They mean to accomplish this by assigning a safety value to both. Basically, anything that a driver can get ticketed for has a value assigned to it. Speeding tickets, parking tickets, driving without your license, equipment violations, preventable accidents, etc. The carriers get their scores from the drivers who work for them. Any CSA points that a driver receives goes against the carrier too. Now, if a driver had collected points while working for another carrier, they don't transfer to the new carrier when the driver switches jobs. So that's at least one thing that the CSA got right. The CSA points do stick with the driver through the job change, though. They're kind of like herpes, meaning you're just stuck with them. What this means is that drivers are going to be scrutinized even harder when they're being considered for a job. As if the DAC report wasn't enough, now you'll have to maintain a good CSA score to be worthy of hiring. By the way, for you non-trucking folk, the DAC report shows the work history of the driver. I really don't have any issues with grading a driver, but they should only be graded on things that are under their control. If a driver is speeding, feel free to nail him or her with some points. That makes sense. Clearly, if a trucker is intoxicated while driving, they deserve some points, and perhaps a few kicks in the ribs. But what about things that you have little or no control over? In my 14 years of driving, I can't honestly remember one time that I went to bed with all my lights working and woke up with a burnout light. There are 3 situations when I'll discover a burnout light. One is during my pre-trip inspection when I'm picking up a different trailer. The second is when I'm driving and another driver tells me on the cursed CB radio that I'm missing an eyeball. That's when one headlight is out. The third is at the end of a leg of my journey. Maybe I've stopped to take a whiz and noticed a dead taillight. Or maybe it's into my driving shift when I'm doing my walk around. The point is, lights burn out. Wiring goes bad. Heck, sometimes they just fall out. When does this happen? When you're driving. So how am I supposed to know exactly when a light burns out? I could do a pre-trip inspection and have a light burn out as I'm driving out of the truck stop parking lot. A cop pulls me over and says I should have done a pre-trip inspection. I did, but how can I prove it? The light was good 3 minutes ago. Am I expected to pull over every minute and check my lights? No. I haven't even mentioned air hose leaks and tires with slow leaks. My company has suggested that I should pull over and do an inspection anytime I'm getting ready to drive through a weigh station. Really? That's getting a bit ridiculous, isn't it? Still, every point I get goes against my record and my future job prospects. Now, some of you may be saying, well, usually a cop will let you go get it fixed. Okay, I'll give you that. I have been released to get a light fix, but I've also been told to call a repair vehicle to get it fixed. And this leads to another point. What if the cop is trying to be nice by letting you go with a warning? That's good, right? Well, maybe. It all depends. Those of you who follow me on Twitter know where this is going. I was cruising around the I-495 loop east of Washington, D.C., trying to figure out if the FMCA's building was within hand grenade distance when I got pulled over by a couple of Maryland state troopers. Seriously, though, I'd seen the Smoky sitting in the median as soon as I topped the hill. I glanced at my speedometer and saw I was doing 60 miles an hour. Unlike some of you idiots out there who feel the need to mash the brakes every time you see a cop, even if you aren't speeding, I just kept tooling along. I knew the speed limit was 55, but I also knew a cop rarely looked at a truck going 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. That logic is fine, but it kind of gets tossed out the window when the laser gun says I was going 67 miles an hour. Okay, first of all, I've never claimed to be any smarter than a trained cockatoo, but I am smart enough to avoid going 12 miles an hour over the speed limit around the DC loop. I told the cop as much, and he said the laser didn't make those kind of errors. I implied that maybe the operator did. After all, there were plenty of cars screaming around me at 65 and 70 miles an hour. I was expecting to catch attitude then, but I didn't. Both officers were surprisingly calm at my insinuation. I went on to explain that my truck was speed limited at 62 miles an hour at the moment. He said I was going slightly downhill. That's when I told him that after 14 years of driving, I'm pretty sure I wasn't dumb enough to let myself go 12 miles an hour over the speed limit. I told him he could tell me I was going 67 miles an hour all he wanted, but I'd never believe him. I admitted that I had my cruise control set on 60 miles an hour, and if he wanted to give me a ticket for that, then I'd accept it without a word. Maybe he thought I'd fight the ticket, or maybe he just wanted to be nice. Who knows? But after a level 1 inspection, that's just a walk around and a driver credentials inspection, he handed me a clean inspection report and a written warning for the speeding. I thanked him and went on my way. Maybe I shouldn't have thanked him. Here's why. I later found out that the CSA gives the same amount of points for a warning as they do a violation. As if that weren't bad enough, here's where it gets screwier than a screwdriving contest. The thing is, you can fight a ticket. If you win, you can petition the CSA to remove the points from your record. Great. But how exactly can you fight a warning? You can't. So in essence, getting a written warning is worse than getting a violation. Will there come a day when we drivers are begging the officer to give us a ticket instead of a warning? Lord, I hope not. Other than the CSA points themselves, what bugs me most about this is that it goes against the officer's intention. They wanted to be nice to you by giving you a warning. They're saying, hey, I could have nailed you, but I'm going to give you a pass this time. Be sure to watch yourself in the future. So what has to happen to fix this? Do you think cops will someday realize that they're screwing us worse by giving us a written warning? Will they eventually learn that they need to give us a verbal warning to be nice to us? I doubt it. Most of the cops wouldn't know a logbook violation if it reached up out of the logbook and socked them in the kisser. How are they supposed to follow all the regulations of the CSA too? There is possibly some hope for the CSA. They've already shown to retract things that weren't working or didn't make sense. So they've scrapped the whole system and started over. Kidding. Wish I wouldn't. For example, earlier this year they retracted all points having to do with overweight tickets. Now, I'm not sure what they didn't like about the criteria, but whatever it was enough to make them give it a second look. The way it was explained to me was that the entire incident came off the CSA record. But my Twitter friend, Mighty Dino, proved me wrong when he told me that his points had been removed, but the violation was still listed on his record. As another Twitter friend, who I can't remember right now, sorry, as they pointed out, that left it wide open to add the points back in later when they worked out the bugs in the system. Looks like they could eventually get you either way. So what does this mean for the truck driver as we go forward with the CSA program? Well, for one, I'd say we'll lose some experienced drivers over this. Whether it's by their own choice or by bogus CSA points from things out of their control is left to be seen. For those who remain, we can plan on being in the dark for quite some time. Very little is explained to us, and not many of us want to dive into research and figure it out. Heck, most drivers I talk to still don't understand the 14-hour rule correctly, and that rule was issued in 2003. The CSA rules are just as confusing, possibly more so. And you can bet they'll be changing them on and off to confuse everyone even more. Recently, another driver and I were looking at the latest statistics issued by the CSA and realized that neither of us knew what the criteria for the results were. We asked dispatch, and they didn't know either. The safety department might have known, but they were gone for the day. One thing for sure, my safety director will be getting another call from me soon. The latest CSA stats shows that we had been surpassed by some companies in the hours of service category. That category just so happens to be the one that has to do with the cursed e-logs. I'll be asking him to explain why our company, which doesn't let their drivers edit their e-logs, has been passed by some other companies that I know for a fact have editable e-logs. This is going to be a fun phone call.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
Well, now, let's take a look at the comments we got on the last podcast. That was the one where Gene McCary guest posted. It was called, "This is a Life, We All Have to Be Somewhere, This is My Life." She got a few comments, which was pretty cool being her first post and all. Helmet or Heels says, "Gene, you rock this post. Thanks for jumping in as a guest blogger for Todd. Interesting look into your life. Thanks for sharing. Hugs and kisses." I guess that's what X and O stand for, isn't it? I never get any of those. I don't want them, by the way, so don't send them to me. Gene wrote her back and said, "Thank you very much. I really didn't expect to see any comments, so this is great." Well, see, Gene, I got cool readers and listeners. Don't be messing with the peeps now. Donna says, "Good job, Gene. What I read through the lines of this was a tale of a happy couple making life work in their favor together, no matter what, no matter where." And Gene wrote back and said, "I love Donna to pieces, and don't worry, I dropped your check in the mail this morning." You know, Gene, I know what you're feeling. I have to pay people all the time to write in. Casey wrote in and said, "Love this post, Gene. I think you have one of the coolest jobs ever. I can't wait to go out with my husband. Crossing my fingers, I can go this summer." And Gene wrote her back and said, "Thank you, Casey. I love my job, though it could pay a little better. I'll keep my fingers crossed for you. I enjoy being out here, but there are days it's so freaking hard. Short bursts give you a real good sense and a real good backup plan if you don't like it." And last, and certainly least, some guy named Todd wrote in. "Well, Gene, it's been a while since I've had the evil overlord in the truck with me, but it all came rushing back when you wrote about things falling out of the cabinets. The evil overlord hated that, and it was a source of daily cussing for her. The part that struck me the most was remembering how much of a pain in the gluteus maximus it was to move all the stuff from the bunk to the front when we both needed to sleep. The thing is, the evil overlord drove, so that didn't happen very often. You, on the other hand, have to do it every single freaking night. Man, that sucks. I can also vouch for how important that time out of the truck is. The way you put it as a vacation pretty well sums it up. Excellent post, Gene, and again, I'm really glad I nagged you into doing it. Thanks a lot." And Gene wrote back saying, "I appreciate you letting me share my story. Even if you did use me and abuse me to get it written, all is forgiven." Well, Gene, I'll believe all is forgiven. Well, never. All right, everybody. Thanks for writing in. If you've got more comments for this post, you can always send them in. You can catch Jean on Twitter. Her handle is RaySunshine77. Her email address is janedean77@yahoo.com. That's JANEDEAN, the number 7, another number 7. Or you can check out our Facebook page. All these links will be in the show notes again. And as always, if you want to reach me, here's my info. So, what's your experience been with the CSA? What are you concerned about? How do you think this will affect the industry? Or maybe I got something wrong? Well, here's your chance to tell me how stupid I am like Mighty Dino did on Twitter. Bring it on. Really, the more people that know about this, the better. You can leave your thoughts in the comments section on the blog by typing CSA in the search bar at abouttruckdriving.com, finding the post, and adding your thoughts. Or you can unleash the fury in an email to truckerdump@gmail.com. Check out my Twitter junk at twitter.com/Todd McCann. That's 2 D's, 2 C's, and 2 N's. So until next time, drive safe and stay out of my way.